Welcome to WhatGear Reviews, tech reviews coming to you from rainy old England. Today it's not raining and I'm doing a video that was heavily requested by you, the subscribers of WhatGear Reviews. So the selfie video footage you're looking at right now is coming off of the Sony Xperia 1 Mark II cameras, but it's actually not the Sony Xperia 1 Mark II, it's actually the Sony Xperia Pro. And what you're looking at right now is the front-facing video camera on the Sony Xperia 1 Mark III, the latest from Sony. And I'm interested to know, is there a difference in quality? Do you see an improvement, or maybe the opposite? Is it not as good as the 1 Mark II? And how are the mics sounding as well? Let me know in the comments below. Anyway, let's look at some photos. So here's the first shot, and straight away you'll probably notice something. I'm checking my watch, and that's because you know what time it is. It's about time you subscribe to WhatGear Reviews. Alright, I'm only joking, but really though. Okay, picture one. So you'll notice the Xperia 1 Mark III picture does seem to be significantly brighter and arguably more detailed, and this could be due to hardware upgrades that Sony have made. And it's important to note, when you look at the Xperia Pro picture, what you're actually looking at is the Xperia 1 Mark II, because they use the exact same hardware. So what we're really looking at today is Xperia 1 Mark III versus Xperia 1 Mark II, except it's not, it's the Pro. Anyway, the performance of the Mark II camera setup is also really nice. It does have slightly darker shadows and crushed blacks, but both pictures to me look pretty good. Now, let me drop this little bombshell on you. These are, in fact, the ultra-wide lenses on both the phones. Are you impressed? I have to say that I am. I do believe the Xperias have some of the best ultra-wide cameras out there at the moment. Anyway, here's picture two. So there was this really creepy and very colourful caterpillar crawling across this branch here, and this is a photo taken on the primary shooters. Again, you'll notice the Mark III picture is much brighter, and the Mark II picture, or the Pro, whatever you want to call it, has those crushed shadows again. But what I really want to show you guys here is how much information the two phones are picking up. So let's zoom in 100% in post editing to find out. So here you can see the Mark II picture is ever so slightly softer, and it does seem to be losing some of that fine detail in the highlights. But it's still pretty impressive though, but I believe this is a win nonetheless for the Mark III because it just has more details, in my opinion. Let me know what you think about this one. Okay, so here's a little bit of a color test, and actually you'll probably notice the colors are almost identical in this setting. And actually, what's making the difference here in this picture is the difference in lens technology, or it could be software, I'm not sure, but the Mark III really struggled to find focus in this condition. So I guess we could call this a win for the Mark II or the Pro. And before you say I should have tapped on the screen to try and focus it, I did try all of that, and I could have moved a little bit further back with the Mark III, but that would have changed the composition of the particular picture, and I didn't really want to do that. Anyway, next picture. So here's a mugshot on the selfie cameras. The Achilles heel of the Xperia 1 series, in my opinion. It's nice to see that there has been some improvement since the Mark II setup, because that picture kind of has this horrible looking magenta hue right across it, which is really quite unusual. And the Mark III now definitely picks up more accurate colors than before. And you might also notice there's a difference in lens technology here. We had a slightly wider field of view on Xperia 1 Mark II and a much more narrow cropped in field of view here on Xperia 1 Mark III. I'm not sure how I feel about this. I do kind of like that wider field of view, but definitely the colors are on the side of the Mark III. So I think it is a win for the Mark III again. All right, that's enough jibber jabber. Now let's just roll a few. I'm going to show you guys the zoom tests, and then we'll get into the video side by side and the slow-mo test, and then the night mode. So let's go. So let me know what differences you noticed during the video side by side, and now let's look at night picture 1. So honestly, these pictures are so close, but with that said, there is a difference here. When you look at the Mark III picture, it does seem to be handling those lens flares a lot better than the Mark II, and it appears to be slightly more detailed as well if you look really closely. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you see any differences that I haven't noticed here. Leave that in the comments below. Now this one is an interesting one, because if you look way back into the distance on both of these pictures, you'll actually notice the Mark II, aka the Pro, does seem to be able to see a little bit further into the distance. But again, you'll notice that big lens flare coming off the street light, but actually it looks pretty cool, kind of artistic. And you really see that when you compare it to the Mark III picture, where it's handling that flare perfectly. Maybe this could be something to do with a change in the Zeiss coating. Anyway, let's roll a few more now, and I'll join you again just before the end. So this one right here is one of the darkest shots, and here we can really see detail wise they look pretty close, almost too close to call. So let's zoom in 100% in post-production again and see if we can see a difference. And honestly, I don't think there really is much of a difference at all. The only difference I notice here is the difference in color balance. You got this slightly greener tone on the Mark II and a slightly cooler tone on the Mark III. So overall, when it comes to this kind of night shot, there really doesn't seem to be a massive improvement between the Mark II and the Mark III. And now let's just wrap this up with a mug shot. Again, we can see there does seem to be a big improvement in the selfie shooter, more natural tones on the Mark III, overblown highlights there on the Pro or the Mark II. But again, you got that really nice wide angled lens. And do you know what I've realized? I really should be using beauty mode these days. Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this one, and I actually wasn't going to make this one, but so many of the subscribers of the channel asked to see it, so I felt it was my duty to do it. And if there's any other Sony content that you really want to see, make sure you let me know in the comments below, and I'll do my best to make that for you guys. And if you just subscribed, you're now one of the finest subscribers known to man, and I will see you in the next one, so don't be late.